Thanks to MyBookie for supporting the Larry Miller Show. MyBookie has better bonuses and more prop bets than any other sports book, period. This year, they're hosting the first online handicapping super contest. First place is guaranteed to win at least $100,000, and it only costs $100 to enter. Visit MyBookie online today and use the promo code Larry when creating your account to claim the bonus. And now, live from Level 5 Productions on the island of Milleronia, it's the Larry Miller Show. Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. America, and everyone who had a great Labor Day, or even knows what it is. Hi, folks, and welcome back to the Larry Miller Show. I'm Larry Miller, but in a way, aren't we all? And boy, oh boy, is it ever beautiful on Milleronia again today. I've said this before, but I'll say it again. Yes, we control the weather here. I do. I control the weather. I say what I want it to be, and that's what it will be. And boy, just beautiful today, though, and not too hot and not too anything. And, well, it makes me happy, and it makes Colonel Jeff happy. And, well, the music also, as always, makes me happy. That's, of course, the Ethan Jarvis Orchestra and the Myrna Loy Dancers, featuring boy tenor Donald E. Riley, asking the musical question, if you can no longer tune in, how can you drop out? Donald, both Colonel Jeff and I have no idea. Let's start there. We started talking, about that. I remember the, you remember the old Timothy Leary saying from the 60s, turn on, tune in, drop out. And frankly, we had no idea what that meant either. I mean, I don't exactly know. I could make something up, but turn on, tune in, drop out of, I don't know, drop out of school, drop out of society. Donald, that's a terrific question. But I have to say, no, if you can't tune in, you can't drop out. And a little quick note here. The Ethan Jarvis Orchestra. Ethan Jarvis was a friend of Colonel Jeff's and just passed on. And Jeff wanted to give him a tip of the hat. And so do I. And, and Myrna Loy, how wonderful to think of her and mention her always. A great, great actress and just beautiful and a great part of American movie making. And by MyBookie. I just mentioned that before the show. Folks, it's the start of a new football season. A lot has changed. For example, Le'Veon Bell is with the Jets, and I'm a big Jets fan. No, I'm a huge Jets fan. And, any guy with an apostrophe in his first name is going to make me happy. But the one thing that hasn't changed, where I'm putting my money down on all the games. MyBookie is the place to bet on football every weekend. And that's why MyBookie is always the right play. You bet, you win, they pay. With MyBookie, you can bet live in-game on every NFL game. They've got the most rewarding player perks in the business. For you fantasy football folks, you can even bet the over-under on how many fantasy points a player will score each game. Up to $1,000 first deposit bonus. Double your first deposit. Use promo code Larry to activate the offer. Visit MyBookie online today. That's MyBookie. And don't forget to use the promo code Larry when creating your account to claim the bonus. Bet, win, get paid. And I'm glad they're fans of the show, and they've decided to support it, and they've decided to advertise with us. So good luck on whatever you bet, And that brings me to my favorite part of the show, the joke of the week. That's right. No need to bet on this. And two fellas in Ireland, in Dublin, see an ad for a job in a pub. And they both go down there to apply. One of them is Irish and one of them is Swedish. And they apply. And they go through an interview. And you know what? They get the same results on the interview. The manager likes them both. Well, they're both 19 years old and they're both the same and they're both smart and funny. Well, that's pretty good too. All right. So the manager walks out and tells them, I'll be honest, you did great. Now let's take the test. So he gives them each a piece of paper with the multiple choice test on it. 15 minutes later, he collects the tests and does a quick score of them. What do you think? They both scored the exact same. And they both got 19 out of 20. And that's pretty good stuff. The manager thinks for a second, walks over to the young Irish fella and says, well, I'll be honest with you. You both did just fine. But we're going to give the job to the Swedish fella. And the Irish guy is astonished and he's annoyed and what are you talking about here? We both scored the same on everything. And, it's a pub in Ireland, in Dublin, and I'm Irish. Shouldn't I just get the job? Why don't I? Why does he get the job? And the manager says, I'll be honest, it came down to the question you both missed. And the Irish goes, what are you talking about? And he said, here, look at both tests. Look right at this one. On number 7, the Swedish guy's answer was, I don't know. And your answer was, neither do I. Well, we thought that was cute. We liked that one. Well, so he was more or less obviously cheating. But anyway, that's a pretty good one. And as always, with any joke you hear on the show, if you like it, spread it around. It's always good to save a good joke. And that one especially was sent in by a friend of our show, Brad Simpson. Thanks, Brad. That's a good one. And that brings me to my second favorite part of the show, the Poetry Corner. This is a very lovely poem by a great poet I've read from before, Robert Williams Service. And it's called Comfort. Say, you've struck a heap of trouble. Bust in business, lost your wife. No one cares a cent about you. You don't care a cent for life. Hard luck has of hope bereft you. Health is failing, wish you'd die. Why? You've still got the sunshine left you and the big blue sky. Sky so blue it makes you wonder if it's heaven shining through. Earth so smiling way out yonder, sun so bright it dazzles you. Birds a singing, flowers a flinging, all their fragrance on the breeze, dancing shadows, green, still meadows. Don't you mope, you've still got these, and none can take them from you. These, and none can weigh their worth. What? You're tired and broke and beaten? Why, you're rich. You've got the earth. Yes, if you're a tramp in tatters while the blue sky bends above, you've got nearly all that matters. You've got God, and God is love. Isn't that nice? Very good. Gee, that's a pretty one. Robert Williams Service. And that brings me to my third favorite part of the show, MMM, the Magic Movie Moment. And this is a good movie, too. It's called The Final Season, directed by David Mickey Evans from 2007, starring Powers Booth, Sean Astin, Larry Miller, James Gammon, Marshall Bell, Larry Miller. Did you get the point here? Yes, I'm in this, and there's so many others, by the way. It's a wonderful cast. Shot in Norway, Iowa, which is a great town, and it's about 30 miles from Cedar Rapids, where we all stayed. It's a wonderful town, and by the way, they won, this is a true story, 19 all-state baseball tournaments. They were first place for 19 years. And this school is like the town. It's not big. They had just 25 fellas, come to think of it, in the senior class in that school. That's not big. And they loved baseball and they loved their team. And there are two things about this that are a little different from the magic movie moment. I loved, number one, working with James Gammon. He's passed on a few years now. And I'll tell you what, though, it was a treat to work with him and a treat to get to know him. We had breakfast together. His wife came and visited. She was staying with him for a couple of months. And you know James Gammon. If you don't know the name, you've seen him in 100 movies, and he's just terrific. He's got that rough, gravelly voice. And hold on, I think there's only two of them guys up there. And he's terrific. He's in so many movies like Silverado and, but this was such a treat to get to know him. And David Mickey Evans directed a terrific picture. And there's something wonderful that happens in just movies. I've never seen anything else in life do this. But we were, on the field, the baseball field in Norway, Iowa, the high school baseball field. Just 100 yards away, a train came by, a big, northern central, a real, movie train. That's the only way I can think of it. And it just, and just came rolling by. It was perfect, and it went right behind the field as, the actors playing the baseball players were on it in uniform, and they weren't shooting right then, that second, but David Evans came running down and just screamed to all the camera people, just said, shoot, 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 and he was exactly right, and every camera rolled just to get those fellas on the field in their positions, and to see that train go by. Well, if you love movies, you know that you'd do the same thing. So would I. Run down screaming, shoot, shoot, shoot. And they all shot that. And I thought, at that moment, I thought, wow, that's good movie making. Good for him, too. You don't hesitate for a second. Well, why? How are you going to hesitate? But he ran down and he yelled that. The main thing, though, about this movie to me was something that happened on the side. And I call this, because it's true, the best baseball game I've ever seen. And this happened not on the field in Norway, but they had another baseball field, always about 10 miles away. We were invited, because all the characters are real. Coach Van Scoy and these fellas were real. And it was a treat to get to know them, a real pleasure. And they were nice enough. They all the townspeople in Norway built themselves a golf course and a little club there where they could, had a bar and you could get dinner. And they invited us. It was one Sunday afternoon. They invited all the actors and to come by. And I drove down there with Marshall Bell, who you've seen in so many things. He's a great actor, and he and I have worked together many times. And Dayton Cali. And I became friends with him, and he's a wonderful actor, all from things like Deadwood and so many movies and TV shows. And the three of us, and we're not small men, by the way, but we drove down to this golf club of theirs in a rented car, a Chevy Cobalt or something, which was, a two-door car. We didn't care. I mean, who cares about anything anyway? And we, the three of us, three lunkheads, just packed into this thing and drove down there. And I'll never forget, though, that we were saying that, boy, it's a Sunday, just don't feel like we're just being a little cranky and just, I don't mind, go. And Marshall Bell, who plays very tough guys, too, he's a terrific actor. And Dayton, we're all sitting there as they were making some speeches in the restaurant part of the place there. And Marshall knew I had kind of hit the wall on this. I was, and he just like that. I looked over to where he was, and he just made a calming motion with his hand. Just take it easy, And he held up 5 more minutes, and then we'll go. And I remember thinking, it's good for him. He's all right. Got a good heart, a good soul. And we headed out. And then, folks, the most interesting thing happened. We passed a high school where we had shot something a few weeks before. And, it wasn't open, and it was a little run down. But they were having a baseball game there. Not for the high school. They were having it was like an adult league. Not semi-pro, just adults who loved baseball. And I mean, they were in their 30s and 40s, and both teams had nice uniforms on. And we parked in a little place there and just walked down one slope toward the field and saw the game. And there was another slope just behind the field, and we thought, let's watch the game. And the three of us just sat on that slope. There were, 20 or 30 fans around on other parts of the slope with kids and picnic baskets and coolers. And they were all the nicest people in the world. They glanced over to us and nodded and smiled, and we nodded and smiled back and watched the game. It was around the 6th inning. And, a lot of, I would call old-time baseball things were happening. One of the coaches had his leg up on the steps in the dugout and was doing that baseball clap I've only seen in baseball, where one hand is about the middle of the other hand and there's just you'd know it in a second as, that's a baseball clap. You don't see it anymore. It's like come on, let's go. But everyone did that, and then someone would hit the ball and run around. And these were good athletes, too, and they weren't kidding around. And they would slide and get tagged or make it. And one guy, he had a line drive base hit, and then another guy gets struck out. And I'm telling you, though, neither Dayton nor Marshall nor I looked at each other and said, wow, this is really something. This is nice. It was like a Twilight Zone. It was as if the train had just pulled into a town and we glanced out the window and were amazed to see people in outfits like 1903, and people greeting each other and men doffing their caps and women with umbrellas, just, and that's how I felt a Twilight Zone thing. And then the game ended. And a little girl from one of the families came by and offered us, when the game was still on, by the way, this is in the 9th inning, she offered us each a soda, a can of soda. And we said, well, thank you. And she was very sweet, and she smiled and then went back to her family. And I thought that was the nicest thing in the world. They said to her, go offer those fellas a can of soda. And we had that, and then when the game ended, we just looked at each other and smiled and stood up slowly and, stretched a little bit. And all the other people, of course, were gathering their kids and waving to a ball player or two. And shaking hands with a coach or two, and then they left. And then we just looked around, and then we left, went back to our Chevy Cobalt and got in and had another, 15 miles or 20 miles back to Cedar Rapids, back to the hotel. And, not one of us, we said something, but just a tiny bit. We didn't comment on it. We just said, that was nice. That was great. That was baseball. And it was. It was all those things. And then we got back to the hotel, and we still had our fancy golf club clothes on, because we didn't want to look like slobs for our new friends there, and went up to our rooms just to wash up and kept our clothes on, kept our nicer clothes on. Nicer meaning a sport coat, shirt, tie, and shoes with laces or something. Well, with me, it's always topsiders, but I mean, it's still kind of nice. And a pair of slacks, khakis, and then we met downstairs and said, well, let's go get a bite. And we did. We walked down the block in Cedar Rapids, and there's a nice, kind of a pub grill that had, you could get anything there. You could get steaks or chicken or something. So we did that. We walked in and sat down and had a nice meal, and then we just, walked back to the hotel and got ready for work the next day to shoot. And I'm just telling you, though, I said, and I talked about this with Dayton and Marshall the next day, I said, you know what? I think that's the greatest baseball game I've ever seen. And I've been to a zillion Yankee games, folks, and games all over our country, and loved it. You hear the fist pounding in a glove, and so many things have happened at so many Yankee games that I've seen, that I was there for. But you know what? This was the best baseball game I've ever seen. So you know what? See the final season sometime, and if you haven't, it's a good movie, and but you'll know that somewhere about 20 miles away from all the base camp with all the cameras and all the trailers and all the makeup people, well, Dayton Kelly, Marshall Bell, and Larry Miller saw the best baseball game we've ever seen in America. And it means a lot to us. It meant a lot then, and it means a lot to us now. And as poetic and magical and sweet as that game was, I just want to talk about Labor Day, which, well, frankly, is not poetic and sweet, and we just had it. I'm not sure any of us, I don't know out there really, if you know what Labor Day is. It's easy enough to look up on the internet, but I didn't know. And yes, we just had it, Labor Day. It's a national holiday, a federal holiday. And as I said, I'll bet you don't even know what it is. That people are saying things like, well, I wasn't ready for it this year. I know, no one knows what it is or how you get ready in the first place, but I still wasn't ready for it. Didn't we all used to go back to school just before Labor Day or just after Labor Day? Didn't we all do that? Now everyone's back in school 1 week before, 2 weeks before, 3 weeks before. Who knows? Who cares? I want to say that we all do nothing on Labor Day. Colonel Jeff said the same thing, that, you know what? He told everyone at work there, well, I did nothing, just sat around, watched a game, took a nap, and everyone at work said, sounds good, because, by the way, it does. That sounds great. You intentionally do, well, nothing. And I did the same thing. That I'll bet you, if you went over to even 50 bricklayers, sitting around chatting in a restaurant somewhere and said, hey, what are you guys going to do for Labor Day? I'm sure they'd just look up and say, oh, please. You never hear someone saying, why, I drank too much on Labor Day. By the way, this is not crankiness. I'm not putting this down. I think it's a fine idea for a holiday. Except we all have several good stories. Oh, someone had a memorable Christmas, a memorable Thanksgiving, a memorable 4th of July, a memorable Valentine's Day. Anyone have a memorable Labor Day? No, we don't. And I'll be honest, on Milleronia, we celebrate every big American holiday. We're right with it and right behind it, but not Labor Day. And by the way, my family is full of labor on both sides. My mom's father was a plumber, and great plumber, and one of his sons, my Uncle Harry, became a plumber too, worked with him, and my other grandfather worked in a factory, and one of his kids, my Uncle Dickie, drove a cab in New York, and wow, we had chicken farmers and teachers and soldiers and Navy men all over the place. So everyone was as full of hard work as could be, but if you ever said, hey, you want to go have a few? It's Labor Day. The whole room would be as silent as if you'd said, my broker is E.F. Hutton. And Hutton says, just silent. Well, I have a feeling people drink more the day they got fired than on Labor Day. Hey, I just got fired. Want to go out and get loaded? Sure. Hey, it's Labor Day. Want to go get drunk? Why? There are some great stories about every American holiday, but I don't think there are any about Labor Day. I couldn't think of any. Colonel Jeff couldn't think of any. No famous fights, no statues, no speeches, no banners, no hats. I mean, well, Milleronia is as loyal to our bricklayers as to our doctors. And Colonel Jeff said before the show, well, there's the only good part of Labor Day. Football season is about to start, and yeah, I know. And the very last cycle of pregnancy starts when a woman goes into labor. Yeah, but of course, that's not what we're talking about. I want to just say, you know what? Good luck to labor in all their negotiations, but please leave our days off alone. And that's not a bad idea right now. I know that, you know that, and we know the same things anyway. Homer is Homer, and Pluto is a planet. So remember, folks, as always, if you walked out of bed today and had a job to go to and a home to come back to, and someone there who cares about you, folks, the game's over and you've won. And that's still the truest thing I know. Be well. On and off labor. Whether you're a plumber or a doctor, we'll see you here next time.
WRII concludes its broadcast day. The staff and management hopes you have enjoyed today's programs, and we invite you to join us again tomorrow morning when we resume our broadcast day at 5 a.m. WRII is owned and operated by Seven Lake Productions, Incorporated, R. Merle Gillespie, President, with studios located at 507 Northwest 2nd Street, Homestead. WIII operates on an assigned frequency of 1430 kilocycles with power of 500 watts by authority of the Federal Communications Commission. The station with its eyes on you, WIII, returns to the air tomorrow morning at 5 a.m. Till then, a pleasant good evening. And this is our story of country music, planted so deep within our hearts that it will live forever. So when it's time for the tall pines to find, the pawpaws to fall, the bumblebee bumbles all day, the grasshopper hops and the eavesdropper drops, while gently the old cow lifts away. All hands up and sing a little swing it, 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 little girls from Arkansas, everybody there's known you go to the chicken in the bed and picking up those clothes on your back.